Okay, going to give you a quick demo here on the common size end of things using our example today. So I've already filled in the first column and I'll just click on it. Little Excel trick with the locked in referencing. So this F7 refers to the purchases and of course F5 is the revenue. So just locked it in, dragged it all down. I'll do it again over here. So we're taking the account, dividing it by the revenue or the sales, and I'm going to hard reference it so I can drag it. Now the simulation won't let me use the F4 key on Excel to make this happen, so I have to put the dollar signs in by hand. Okay, so hit the return key and try to keep that image window straight. Okay, I'm going to drag them all down. Fills in automatically. Going to clean up the formatting so we can talk about this without getting too confused. Okay, so here we are. We've got 2 years, 2009, 2010. We can compare. If we look at purchases, for instance, in 2009, they're 40.3% of the 1564. 2010, they're 40.2%. So that's pretty close. Big difference here for freight in from one year to the next now, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of percentages. Remember, I'm looking at the percentages and making the comparison. Most of these numbers, if the revenue goes up, then most of these numbers are going to go up as well. Okay. So freight in went up a good chunk, 0.8%. That's a bit extreme, I think. And good thing is the labor came down a bit, so wonderful. Um, Freight in might be a bit of a concern, something we'd have to look at down the road or even this year and review our freight in contracts and that sort of thing. Salaries went up a good chunk in terms of one year compared to the next, but in terms of the actual comparison of the numbers to the revenues, okay, they actually went down from 9.5 to 8.9. So hard numbers went up, the dollars went up, but the proportion, and remember proportion is the key, actually went down. Now most of these actually are pretty much with the same within a few numbers here and there. Commissions did go up a little more than we expected. Same with our traveling. Maybe we had to go to some more trade shows, that sort of thing. Advertising doubled. Bit worrisome, but if we're promoting some new products, which might account for this big sales jump, that could happen. Leasing, we got some new equipment or maybe rented some new space, whatever the case may be. Amortization, we bought something that gave us a bump in amortization. And of course, when we get down here, our operating profit was actually up a bit. Okay, our financing was up a good chunk. As a result, even though our operating was up, our earnings after taxes or net profit actually dropped 0.2%. So we got a few questions we might want to investigate one year to the next, see what we're doing differently. Of bigger interest is if we go back here to 2008. Our purchases were 31%. Now they jumped up to 40.3. So as a result, our gross profit went from 35% to 23%. Okay, so and our actual numbers actually dropped. Now they picked up a bit here in 2010. The big question, of course, is what happened for these 2 years. This would be an example of picking up something like Walmart or something like that in terms of a big account. But what do big accounts want? They want big discounts. So what happened here is we maybe got a big account and it just trashed our margins quite nicely. And actually trashed our profitability, our gross profit as well. And if we get all the way down to our earnings after taxes, net taxes, you got to wonder if this is the case. Now, if it's a case of increased costs, you got to say, okay, well, if our supplies went up so much money, how come we're not passing the price increase on to our customers? And this is a serious consideration. Okay, and the trend didn't get any better here, so this is something we really have to investigate. Sliding over to Wally's balance, I did the same thing in 2009. I filled it in already. Got to shorten the video, also won't fit on YouTube under my little agreement. So same thing here. Going to divide by the assets now. Okay, and pump in the little dollar sign by hand. And drag it downwards. Now the common size calculations on the balance sheet are not as important. Well, they're not as, I won't say important, but not as interesting as what happens on the income statement. I get this to go back over here. There we go. Awkward little thing. Okay, so my key ones for me to look at are the inventories, receivables, and their prepaids, and the cash. So the current accounts I'm really interested in. My inventories went up a bit. So that could be from one or two reasons, or a combination of both. The inventories I actually have are worth more money compared to the year before, or I'm actually carrying more to do the business. And this could be a combination of both, and especially when it's jumped up from here to here. Concerns me for a couple of reasons. One, I'm tying up a lot more money in inventory I've got sitting around during the course of the year. And there's all sorts of inventory management programs out there, but they will say, okay, this is how much your inventory is. But when you add rent and heat and light and hydro and financing, all this sort of stuff, inventory sitting around is not a good deal. Okay, you want to have as little of that as possible. Receivables went up a fair chunk in terms of percentage compared to assets. Not that much, but in terms of dollars, they went up. Later on in the course, we'll get into looking at managing our receivables. And if I saw this number in my common size statements, I'd be going, okay, time to look at my receivables management and see what the ratios they're telling. And we've got other things going on here as well. Equipment went from 30 to 60. So the percentage of the equipment on the balance sheet compared to all the assets went up a good chunk as well. Let's see if there's anything else here. Payables went up quite a bit. Again, that would be related to the inventory, that our payables will go up. But remember, if our payables are going up, odds are pretty good that we're not paying our suppliers as quickly as we could be, and they might be charging us more money here and there. Okay, so something to think about. Similar ideas down here. Retained earnings actually went up, but in a proportional to the assets, they dropped. Not a huge concern, but something to keep an eye on. Okay, now I'm going to slide over to the ratios, and I'm just going to do a couple of quick ratios here. So the interest coverage is the EBIT divided by the interest. I find that over on the income statement. Okay, so I'm going to do the 2009 EBIT divided by interest. I get 6.36 times, so my earnings, my operating profits are covering my interest. 6.36 times, not bad. Okay, now for a bigger calculation, I'm going to do some brackets, and it's EBIT plus current LTD plus leases. So EBIT plus leases, which are on this income statement as well, plus current LTD, 2009 current portion of LTD, bracket, divide by bracket, LTD plus, going back to the income statement, where are we here? Interest plus leases, bracket, hit enter, and there we go, 2.74. Okay, now the formula I did is not exactly matching this, but I've got the same elements in it, interest, current LTD, and leases, but it's easier than bouncing back between the income statement and the balance sheet all the time. Okay, so I've got the two numbers, my interest coverage. You can do your formulas from there. Well, why don't I just do this for 2010 as well? Okay, equals EBIT divided by interest. So it dropped quite a bit. We got a huge interest expense spike there. Okay, so EBIT plus leases plus current portion, 5 divided by current portion, over here, interest and leases. Okay, so they both dropped a little bit. The interest coverage dropped quite a chunk, and the debt coverage dropped as well. So that tells me we took on more debt during the year, and it tells me we took on a huge chunk of interest for some reason. So maybe we got a financed loan, or we got a loan financed at a higher rate than we're used to, or something like that, or really cranked it up. So it's something we'd have to have a look at as well, based on our ratios.